Hello everybody and welcome back. In this video we will have a look at 4 major mysteries or questions still unanswered regarding classic TBC. We will first talk phase release in combination with raid gating and what I think should be different this time around. Next we will take a look at post versus pre-nerf content and why I think pre-nerf content is the best option for overall health and longevity of TBC Classic. Third, we will talk about the problematic with high server populations, and finally we will have a look at WoW buffs and consumables taken. Maybe you're wondering why I chose only 4 mysteries and not 5. Well, the 5th one was supposed to be spell batching, but that one is already resolved and it is getting fixed. I posted a short video commenting on it a couple of days ago. I will link the video on the upper right hand side of this window in case you are interested. Alright, let's begin with phase release and raid gating. When TBC first came out, there were up to 5 raids available. These are Gruul Slayer, Magtheridon, Karasan, Serpent Shrine Caverns and Tempest Keep. It is fair to assume that Blizzard will release TBC phase-wise, just like they did with Classic. So I think this would be an amazing opportunity for Blizzard to take a look at all these raids and release them in a different, more ordered way that they did back then. So for example, what they could do is to release them accordingly to tier sets. Let's take for instance tier 4, which was obtainable in Magtheridon, Gruul and Karasan. We'll then make those 3 raids available at launch, and then in phase 2 they can roll out either Serpent Shrine and Tempest Keep or just one of those 2, and then in phase 3 the other one. It depends really on how far between Blizzard wants to gate content and how many phases they plan to have. Then we can have phase 4 with Black Temple and Hyjal, then phase 5 with Suleiman, and finally phase 6 with the Sunwall Plateau. And by the way, I checked again the attunement requirements and no, this imaginary release schedule I just presented to you doesn't come into conflict with the attunement quests and requirements. And anyway, this is just a mere proposal based on my own limited opinions, and so it doesn't have to be this way. I just think it will make sense as a viable possibility. Post versus pre-nerf content. Now, this is one of the critical issues going into TBC. In Classic WoW, itemization, class design, plus other stats and mechanics were based on its latest patch 1.12, which overall wasn't the worst decision, but as a consequence much of the content felt pretty underwhelming up until Naxxramas, where the content difficulty was properly tuned to match player power. And with TBC we have a kind of similar scenario, only that many of the initial raids were nerfed in difficulty with its latest patch 2.4.0 to allow new players to catch up with the new content more rapidly. Classes were also further tuned and changed in power as new patches came out. Some made gains whereas some made losses, especially in PvP. And this is why I hope and pray that Blizzard doesn't release TBC on its latest version with post-nerf raid difficulty.
You have been nerfed.
Now, this doesn't mean that I want all the raid bugs in early TBC, I just want a game version that doesn't feel underwhelming. As for class progression, that's a more sensitive matter. Many players seem to be split between having either their classes progress throughout the patches as it was back then, or starting with the latest changes already in place, just like we had with Classic. For me personally, I would rather have class progression as it was back then, and I think that would be a welcomed decision for other players too, especially for those interested in arenas. Otherwise, these would feel pretty dull since there will be no meta change with every patch as we had back in 2007. My third concern is population. Now, I don't know if I'm making it too big of a deal, but I'm just wondering if maybe 10,000 players in a single server aren't a bit too much. I'm just trying to imagine 10,000 players trying to quest at the same time in Hellfire Peninsula. I expect Blizzard to implement layering once again to try and alleviate this issue, plus many others will choose to grind their way up to 70 doing dungeons, but still Outland is quite smaller than Azeroth is, with more limited resources. Are we going to have enough for everyone, or are we going to have an Anguro Mafia 2.0 controlling the Outland market? Okay, well, I don't know about that one, but And yes, we will be able to fly, but still, maybe I'm just panicking and missing on some key piece of information. Take for instance the elemental plateau in Nagrand. That place was already heavily farmed back then because the elementals there dropped important crafting materials, but back then servers were not nearly as populated as they currently are, at least some of them. And let's not forget the PvP factor on PvP realms, even though PvP servers will probably be mostly Horde I think, but still, maybe because of this issue people will want to transfer to PvE servers so that at least they don't get farmed along with materials, which at the same time will speed up another looming problem, namely too crowded PvE servers. Now I don't really know what kind of solution Blizzard can really implement here, maybe reducing server sizes, but who gets to decide who stays and who goes to another server? Layering maybe? I don't know, generally most players were happy as soon as Blizzard did away with layering, plus they might get exploited just as we saw with Classic, and also they are not supposed to be an on and off switch that Blizzard can freely use whenever things start to derail. Last but not least, world buffs. Blessing and damnation, boon and bane. Good but bad. You can benefit from its crazy power boost and destroy your enemies, annihilate the damage meters, torpedo through every raid in 3 minutes 26 seconds, but you can also become a slave to its power boost very easily, and not being able to play your character at all for several days can suck. It's almost like a drug, really. Well, maybe not that bad, but sort of. But in my opinion, the biggest problem with world buffs is the toxicity that goes along with it, and the so-called dispel meta, where players of the opposite faction will go to incredible lengths to try and ruin the experience and the hard work of other players. Certainly I expect this to be less of a problem come TBC, since hopefully many of these dispellers will be enough entertained in Outland, and also players will be able to fly directly into the instance, which would hopefully reduce conflict with the opposite faction, but certainly I could be wrong here. Also alleviating players from the pain of raid logging, especially at the beginning of the expansion when there is so much to do, as well as reducing the number of tasks when it comes to preparing for raid, would surely be a good idea. Speaking of raid prep, the ability to stack up as many consumables as you want was still a thing in early TBC, and it went crazy. Just take a look at this old footage from Method at the Lady Bash encounter. This was later fixed with the release of patch 2.1, where the Battle and Guardian Elixir system was implemented. And let's not forget how expensive raid prep has become. Just take a look at how the price of consumables has skyrocketed with the release of Nax. Imagine this going into TBC raiding. Alright guys, these were my biggest concerns with TBC Classic. We will have to wait and see what Blizzard does. Thank you all for watching until the end. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and of course you would make me a happier man by subscribing to my channel. I wish you all a nice day and see you soon. Bye!